Welcome to the Explainer. So today we're tackling a massive, kinda hotly debated mystery, figuring out the definitive best state to live in for 2026. Look, whether you're actively planning a big cross-country move, just itching for a change of scenery, or you're fiercely proud of your hometown, you've probably wondered how your state actually stacks up against the rest of the country. We're gonna slice right through all the opinions and show you exactly what the raw data is telling us this year. All right, let's take a quick look at our roadmap. We're starting with the best state debate, then we'll look at the top overall state champions. After that, we dive into the happiest states, followed by America's safest havens. Then we'll check out the lowest ranking states, and finally wrap up with finding your ideal home. Okay, let's jump right into section 1, the best state debate, and specifically conflicting institutional rankings. It's the ultimate water cooler question, right? What is the absolute best state to live in? I mean, it sounds like it should have a straightforward, data-driven answer. But as you'll see, the top institutional rankings completely disagree on who actually takes the crown. And that's because the answer depends entirely on which data experts you're asking, and more importantly, what metrics they choose to value the most. Just look at this. If you pulled the 2026 data from WalletHub, their top 3 states are Massachusetts, Idaho, and New Jersey. But switch over to US News & World Report, and their top 3 are Utah, New Hampshire, and Idaho. Notice something there? Out of all 50 states, literally only Idaho manages to appear in the top 3 of both major lists. It's wild. It just perfectly illustrates how weighting different variables, like, say, healthcare versus economic growth, can entirely flip a ranking on its head. Moving on to Section 2, Top Overall State Champions. What makes a winner? To really understand how a state gets crowned a champion, we've got to peek under the hood at the methodology. As WalletHub analyst Chip Lupo explains it, deciding on a place to move is a delicate balancing act. On one hand, you have personal finances and the cost of living, but you also have to weigh safety, health impacts, and your overall lifestyle. Because, let's be real, it's virtually impossible to find a state that's perfect in every single category. So the winners are simply the ones that managed a best overall balancing act. Take Massachusetts, for example. WalletHub actually ranks it as the #1 state to live in overall. And you can see why. It ranks first in education and health, and 6th in quality of life. But wait, look at affordability. It ranks all the way down at 44th. So the takeaway here is that a state can utterly dominate the overall rankings because of stellar, best-in-class education and healthcare systems, even while struggling heavily with how much it actually costs to live there. It all comes down to that aggregate score. All right, Section 3, the happiest states, measuring joy and well-being. Now, when evaluating resident satisfaction, experts don't just, ask people to smile for a survey. They're actually analyzing hard data across 3 core slices: emotional and physical well-being, work environment, and community and environment. So they're looking at things like depression rates, sleep rates, work hours, and yes, even the weather to calculate these overall happiness scores. 81.48 years. That's a big number. That is Hawaii's average lifespan. It's the longest average lifespan in the US, and it's a massive factor driving Hawaii's rank as the #1 happiest state in America for 2026. When you combine that with high income growth and low depression rates, Hawaii really just sets the gold standard for physical and emotional well-being. But hey, you don't actually need tropical beaches to be happy. Contrast Hawaii's constant sunshine with Utah, which takes the #2 spot on the happiness index. Utah's incredible ranking is driven largely by work-life balance and community. In fact, they boast the lowest average work hours in the country and the absolute highest volunteer rate. It just goes to show that high community engagement and having a bit more time away from the 9-to-5 desk are incredibly powerful drivers of human happiness. Let's pivot to Section 4, America's safest havens, security and peace of mind. When we dig into the FBI's uniform crime reports, there's just a stark contrast in violent crime rates across different regions. Northeastern states, for instance, boast incredibly low numbers. Look at this. Maine sits at just 100 incidents per 100,000 people, and Vermont is at 219.1. Now, compare that to a state like Louisiana, which sits way up at 520. It becomes pretty clear why states like Vermont and Maine consistently sweep those top spots for personal and residential safety. Maybe it's those freezing New England winters keeping everyone inside. I don't know, but the data definitely speaks for itself. But, regardless of where your state ranks, personal safety is something you can actively control. Security experts at UFI gave us some great baselines: staying informed on local apps, improving your property lighting, and practicing digital safety. But check out that second bullet point, joining a neighborhood watch. The data shows that simply knowing your neighbors and working together can actually reduce local crime by roughly 16%. That's a real game changer. And of course, securing your home with modern local storage camera systems acts as a massive deterrent. Now for Section 5, the lowest ranking states, exploring the bottom tier. When you aggregate all those metrics, economy, healthcare, education, safety, a distinct pattern does emerge at the bottom of the lists. Over at Wallet Hub, the bottom three are Arkansas, Louisiana, and New Mexico. Meanwhile, for U.S. News, it's Mississippi, Alaska, and Louisiana. So a state like Louisiana consistently appearing at the bottom across multiple lists really indicates some systemic challenges across those tracked data points. If we look objectively at the raw statistical factors impacting these specific states, some common threads start to emerge. High poverty rates, struggling infrastructure, we're talking poor road conditions and low broadband access, along with lower life expectancy metrics. These all act as heavy anchors, pulling those overall scores down. Ultimately, these are really complex, multi-layered challenges that heavily impact aggregate quality of life scores. Finally, Section 6, finding your ideal home, weighing your priorities. So, I want to walk you through a structured, highly personalized framework for picking the perfect state based on your current stage of life. Step 1, identify your financial needs. If affordability is absolutely your top priority, well, a state like Massachusetts might not be for you, even with its #1 overall rank. Step 2, weigh your lifestyle and the weather. Do you value the community volunteerism of Utah, or are you after the sunny outdoor life of Hawaii? And step 3, always check the safety and health data. You really want to look at the specific crime rates and healthcare access in the exact county you're targeting. To wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question. Which metric matters most to you in 2026? Are you chasing the best public schools, the lowest crime rate, the shortest commute, or, simply the most sunshine? Because at the end of the day, the best state isn't just a mathematical equation. It's the state that best supports the life you want to build. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack all this fascinating data. Take these tools, figure out your own priorities, and I'll see you in the next explainer.